Hey, look out. It's Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
I don't know why it's been so long, but it has been a while since
It's been
we've
too
had a
long.
chance. Yeah, to talk to this guy. He's a rock star. He's amazing. Chris Brink. He is the founder of Rooted Music. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on the show, guys.
Before we get into what's going on through this whole stay-at-home lockdown, you have spent your career just hanging with people and influencing them musically, spiritually, and I'm sure that kind of had a change, kind of a pivot. That's the word now, pivot. You probably had to pivot. Yeah, but first, I know we were talking about kids before we got started. That picture on your Facebook page, that is an awesome picture of you and your family.
Oh man, thank you so much. We've had a crazy last month or so with so many every one of our kids had their birthday in the last 30 days or so. I had my birthday. There was Father's Day, Mother's Day, and so it's been a crazy time, but it's been fun.
Now, your kids, are they normally in public school? Are they homeschooled? Has this been a change for them at all? Or is this like, we're at home anyway? What's going on with them?
Well, our daughter is going into second, and we've already kind of run the gamut between hybrid and public. And so that our kids, younger kids were in preschool recently, and our daughter was in a public school near where we live. And so getting to be back at home, it was somewhat familiar because we'd done the hybrid homeschool situation before. But it was definitely harder on our daughter, Emily. She's a social butterfly. She just wants to be around her friends, and she loved her teacher. She had an amazing teacher up here at Sawney Elementary. And so it was definitely a challenging time for them. But thankfully, we live in a great area, and we've had some great weather, especially this spring, man. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Nice and cool. And the kids were able to get outside and just run around and play, and hopefully not have to think too much about what was going on, at least from their perspective. We were kind of shouldering that load for them.
Now, before we started, you said you were currently at the studio there, which is a cool looking thing with all the lights and everything. So have you been in the studio the whole time? Did you have to work from home some? How has it all worked out and still been able to coach folks?
Yeah. So big time shout out to our coaches and to our families for being so flexible and willing to go online during this time. I've been kind of in and out of the house and here at the studio teaching. We took all of our lessons virtual just about right when the schools closed down, kind of middle of March, early March. And just in the last 2 weeks, opened the studio where a few of our students are coming back in person for some socially distanced lessons. But for me, it's been fine. Working at home with 3 little kids, it's a little bit noisy there, and it's a little bit hard to get stuff done. So I've been here most of the time, but I've been by myself. So it's nice to see some familiar faces again.
It's funny that you mentioned that because my son, Joshua, just went up to start practicing drums. He's playing this Sunday at church, and he went up to start practicing, and I can hear it. Even with my headphones on, I can still hear him playing. So I know how that is.
Yeah. I don't know how you guys do it. I really don't. That's got to be so hard day in, day out.
You learn to make do.
Yeah.
Chris Brink with us. He's there in his studio, Rooted Music. And we have, I think you've been with us now for a couple of years. We've got to get with you more often. I thought the other day, what about Chris Brink? We haven't seen Chris Brink in forever. At one time, Chris was in the band called The Museum from 2008 to 2012. Yeah. I think. And, Chris, I know, folks in the industry, we talk to musicians and comics and actors, and this just kind of flattened everybody. Talk about flatten the curve. It flattened finances, and a lot of them just hanging on. How have you guys, what spiritually do you think you've pulled out of this? Have you had challenges, and how have you made it through?
Oh my gosh. I mean, we've been really taken care of. And like I said a few seconds ago, I have to give a lot of thanks and gratitude to our coaches and to our families for being so flexible and moving everything virtual. We didn't lose many students or families at all from normal cyclical business. It was amazing. We did lose some to very honestly understandable reasons. I mean, some families are undergoing furloughs and job layoffs and
Right.
things like that. And for them, I mean, I can't even imagine what they're going through and the challenges they're facing. For us, from my perspective, we've been through not situations like COVID-19, of course, but other situations where God has allowed us to grow our faith and just revisit the times in our lives when He's taken us through and produced faithfulness, and just a reminder of His faithfulness in our lives. And this was just another one of those things I feel like in this season for us. The bigger reminder for me, though, was just seeing how other people were walking through this. We have some really good friends who are coaches with us at the studio, and they're musicians. They were living in Nashville at the time of all of this kind of going down, and they really, I mean, I would say 70 or 80% of their income comes from playing, gigs, playing at churches, playing for different artists, things like that. And so you can imagine what that did to them. And the response to them was amazing. They had people randomly Venmoing and cash apping them money just because they wanted to. And it was just such an incredible measure and look and showing of God's faithfulness in their lives. That just spoke volumes to me. I mean, the Bible says not to worry. Like, today has enough to worry about. You don't need to worry about tomorrow. Obviously, planning has its own things that we should do. But when it comes to worry, I mean, we can rest in the faithfulness of God, and it's amazing to see that over and over in life.
That is so good.
Chris, one thing I love about music is just the power that it has to calm people, to heal people, to do so many things. What have you seen in this time when what I see a lot of is anxiety and worry, like you talked about? Do you see the power of music helping that in this time at all?
I totally do. I really do. We have several online courses and really worship tutorial courses that students can be a part of, either in piano and guitar. And one of the things that I'm seeing is a lot of students taking part in that. Obviously, during COVID, some people had more downtime.
Right.
Our tutorials are really affordable. They're online, and so they can access when they want to. But I think a big reason for that was they understood that worship music and learning to play it, even if you're never playing for, like your son is for church, but you're just playing for yourselves, or you're leading your family in worship, that has the total opportunity to shift the temperature in the room and shift perspective back to where it needs to be. And so I totally agree. Even just music in general, obviously it's God created. And so any music that we're playing has the potential to shift our perspective and just soothe the soul,
Yeah, definitely.
That is so good, Chris. Chris Brink, Rooted Music. Go to rootedmusiccoaching.com. Got to go to a break here in a second, Chris. Where let's say that we're out of the woods, other side of, I don't know, August, September, October-ish, whatever. Do you think you'll stick some online and then some in person, or what's your plan there?
Yeah, I think we have some people who are honestly loving the online nature of lessons. I mean, it's less travel to and from the studio. It's a lot more convenient time-wise. They're not having to plan their day quite as much. And so I think we'll definitely stick. Some families will probably request to stick with online lessons. About a month ago, though, I had to really kind of think through this a lot, because it was at a time when things were just beginning to reopen and we didn't really have too many people ready to come back. I was thinking, okay, what would be the pros and cons of just completely removing an in-person scenario? Like, having all virtual lessons, as you can probably imagine, is so much easier logistically, less overhead. The practical side of things, it kind of outweighs. But when I was really thinking about stories I've heard of people who are just dying for their kids to get back in with some type of relational in-person experience, and really just seeing how my own kids are reacting to this whole situation, it just reminded me of what we're about. We're not, I mean, yes, we're about running an effective business, and that needs to happen. But by the same token, a lot of this and the way that we started Rooted was out of a calling that God, we felt like, called us to. and out of a mission that we have to really mentor and equip students. And I just felt like if we remain closed the entire way, and if we never reopen, that we would be doing such a disservice to some of these students who need that mentorship in their life. And not that we're anybody special, but we care about these students. We want to equip them, not just musically, but just love on them and show them the love of God. I feel like we can do that. Online's a great tool, but we can do that in an amazing way through in-person experiences and do them safely as well.
And I love how you said when in the in-person lessons, you do it socially distant. So it's like, and a 1 and a 2, or maybe not that far away, but at least socially distance enough.
I'm realizing how bad my eyesight is now. I'm like sitting far from the piano and I can't even see I need my own book to make sure.
Welcome to getting older, Chris.
Yeah.
It happens.
We got to go to just a second. You just spurred something in my head now. You playing and worshiping yourself for yourself. Anything coming out of that? Are you writing anything down, anything fresh or what?
You know, I'm not much of a songwriter. I wish I was. And if I was, I probably would have some things coming out. My daughter actually is in voice/songwriting lessons with one of our coaches. And I need to take a look at the song again, but she's writing a song that's based out of the Psalms. Her coach is kind of helping her write it.
Wow.
So I'm really excited to see what happens there. But I think there's a lot of great music that's coming out, or that will be coming out soon, that God's just breathing through all this.
Can't wait to hear that one. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, right. We'll have to share it with you.
Yeah.
So good. Chris Brink, go to rootedmusiccoaching.com. Chris, again, we've got to meet together more often. Sorry about that, but we're so glad we could catch up with you. And hey, thank you so much. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is